Hello there, and welcome to Wild BW podcast. My name is OSHINKA TSIANG. Botswana tourism has just been given a shot in the arm with a launch recently of a statistical dashboard that will look at the whole ecosystem of tourism in Botswana. It'll enable access to up to date data and information across all aspects of the industry. That is what is the hope, nevertheless. Investors, tourists, policymakers, operators, and others will be able to then make quick and informed decisions about tourism in this country. Now, today I have a conversation with a man responsible for this project, Kenneth Setimela. Setimela is the founder and MD of the Leverage Point software development company. And he is here to explain to us what this dashboard is all about, what it's intended to do, and who is going to benefit. Setimela, thank you so much and welcome to Wild BW podcast.
Thanks, Retsiang. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to your listeners all around the world. Thank you for having invited me to be part of your guest on this. And foremost, I must congratulate you on having created this platform. I think this is one of the voices that people want to hear, to appreciate what is happening, and most importantly, come and visit and appreciate and enjoy our flora and fauna when they come into the country. Botswana has the most beautiful landscapes. It has the most beautiful people. It has the most interesting landscapes in terms of everything that we are offering. And this podcast is most likely going to add value in relation to that.
Do you think we are underselling ourselves?
I'm tempted to think we are certainly underselling ourselves, particularly when we are looking at what we are capable of providing the region, the world, from the landscapes, the birds, the animal, the experiences of the food in the Okavango, as we traverse in the transfrontiers, as we go to places like Lobatse, the hill. We need to do quite a lot in terms of unlocking the value of the tourism sector, unlocking job creation in that respect, and giving people an experience of what this country is about from a historical point of view, from experiences, from interacting with the people. I think that a lot of people like saying that when you come to Botswana, first you cry that you are leaving your country. When you leave Botswana, you cry even further because you found home in this country.
Wow.
So we are definitely underselling ourselves, and we need to do a lot better in that regard.
So let's get to this our topic for today. We are talking about the dashboard. Before I get into that, let me know a little bit about yourself. Just tell us who you are and how do you get involved with such a massive project.
I'm a tech guy by profession. I'm growing to become a tech entrepreneur. I have been doing quite a lot in the Botswana landscape. I've worked in a couple of organizations, Local Enterprise Authority, and was also privileged to also serve the SADC region across the 16 countries, where I did quite a lot of work around health, around tourism, around education, around finance, elections, quite wide and varied parts where the mandate of the Secretariat is concerned. I practically know a lot of the different corners of the region, particularly where digital transformation is concerned. I started Leverage Point as a software development company about 8 years ago, and we've been doing quite a lot of work in terms of contributing to the landscape of the digital space where Botswana is concerned. We've delivered on a number of projects for the government of Botswana, and quite interestingly, we are friends with tourism in so many regards. At the height of COVID, we invented the Botswana Tourism Virtual Expo that basically assisted to connect international investors and those that are buying the tourism product together with the local agents as well as the local operators to unlock the market at that time and allow people to fly into the country on the base of what we are able to offer in that regard. So I'm tempted to think that I'm a seasoned person when it comes to issues of digital transformation and issues around what we need to be doing as a country to unlock value where digital transformation is concerned. But today, the conversation is about the statistics dashboard.
Absolutely. And obviously, I mean, look at your background. You were definitely the person to go to when we needed to do something like this. It seems to me that this was a no-brainer as a facility. Why has it taken this long?
It's a no-brainer. You are right in terms of positioning it in that fashion. It has taken a while. There's quite a lot of downstream challenges, if I may put it like that. The country is growing in terms of establishing grassroots systems. The way a dashboard works is it must be fed with different information sources. In relation to this one, you would remember in certain instances, we already have systems that are automated. The Department of Tourism has been calling operators to come onto the T-Start system to adopt it and ensure that they're continuously providing information in relation to that. And then the second part is we also have quite a lot of manual processes in terms of the way that we are capturing information. But we looked at all of these in terms of the current landscape, the manual systems, some of the partially automated systems, and some of the pipeline in terms of the development of the country where digital transformation is concerned. And we said, what is possible in terms of achieving this despite recognizing these are the challenges? So it's on the basis of this that we then saw it fit that the tourism dashboard must come to the fore. I must also highlight that the project has been developed through international cooperation with JICA, a partnership between the government of Botswana and the government of Japan in terms of putting together this dashboard. They were given that responsibility. And as I did highlight, I've been doing quite a lot of work with international development partners, your GIZ. I still do quite a lot for the SADC, for the SADC Secretariat, for the EU, and it's on the basis of this partnership with JICA that the Botswana Tourism Statistics Dashboard has now come to the fore.
Well, we'll look at the demonstration as we continue with our conversation. Who is funding this? Is it the Botswana government? Is it international partners? And going forward, who is expected to keep it alive?
That's a very good question. Yes, this is a partnership between the government of Botswana and the government of Japan through JICA as a development entity. The funding came with both the government contributing through that contribution agreement together with the development partner in this particular instance. The project is three-pronged. The development of the Makadi part, the conceptualization of what can be done there in terms of unlocking such. There's also work that is being done around the NATA to also look at NATA as a place where it allows different people to go to different parts. What can be done in terms of providing information to tourists, whether you are going into Makadi Pens, whether you are going to Maung, whether you are going to Kasane, whether you are going to the different parts around the northern area. It's that hub that connects a lot of people. So there are intentions to establish a center there that would basically be information center for the different tourists that are there. But to a large extent, to the large extent, the third deliverable was this specific dashboard that brought together key experts from the government of Botswana as well as from Japan. I came onto the project as part of the Japan team to develop and build the actual tool and subsequently deliver it in that respect. There are also agreements around the full operationalization. There is continued support that is being provided, where contribution agreements also are providing a platform for capacity building to Botswana and Botswana, and subsequently continued updates of this dashboard by the government and the role players in the ecosystem.
How have you been engaged the industry, and or let me put it this way, who has contributed to the formation of this dashboard across the whole system?
So we started with putting together workshops from a technical point, understanding the data sources in the tourism sector. We had literally all of the state-owned enterprises that are involved where tourism is concerned. Department of Tourism, Botswana Tourism Organization, HATAB, CAAB, Statistics Botswana, the Department of Wildlife, museums. So literally everybody in the country that first has that responsibility where the tourism sector is concerned. And then the second part was having established and understood all of the facets around who is responsible, what is it that they do, how often do they do it, what are they doing on a daily basis, in as far as collection of data, reporting on it, analysis of it, and subsequently policy making around this. We came with the first platform that we then went back and showcased and received feedback from those that first came in. And then we also participated in the tourism Pitso that was held in Francistown earlier this year to ensure comprehensive engagement by the role players, the operators, the different associations that are there. And it was quite a good platform in that regard, in terms of having to fully appreciate the voices of those that are now on the ground. And to speak further to that, to then say the dashboard is not cast on stone as it is now. It's going to continue growing, even in terms of exposing the information. You'll remember, Tsiang, in some of the submissions that came about from those engagements in Francistown, the Botswana Guide Association made certain suggestions. Please go and show the tracks, go and show where the parks are, and that is what you are now going to, what you are currently seeing in relation to how the dashboard is currently looking.
So it's work in progress that demands that there must be continuous input into it.
A work in progress in the sense of continuously making sure that there is updates of information on the platform, growing the platform to continue exposing more of what the tourism sector offers, particularly because the dashboard is made for quite a number of stakeholders, policymakers, the actual tourist, the role players from the operator point of view, and those that are now interested in having to come and make investments in the country. So it's multi-thronged in approach. Some of the dashboards are internal to the ministry and the departments, while others are public-facing and being seen by the general public.
Which is the important thing. For example, this is a tool, if you like, that feeds into the whole ecosystem of tourism in Botswana. in terms of impact, how do you think, how much do you think it actually is necessary for a dashboard like this?
It's like you said, it has taken too long. The first major impact is we want to achieve data-driven decision making. We are empowering ourselves as the different people that play a role. Why should we establish this in this particular place? What are we doing in relation to the statistics of the information that we are currently receiving? What value can we unlock where information is telling us that we have a lot more people coming in this border as opposed to this one? So the immediate impact is unlocking the ecosystem, unlocking opportunities. When I go through the dashboard, you will see the number of people that are going to the 3 chiefs within the CBD in Gaborone. And you then ask yourself, so people are just coming and seeing this. We can't put in young photographers there who can take a picture, print, and sell these pictures. We can't open a restaurant there. We can't. There are so many things that the data is telling us, and we need to look at the data and make deliberate decisions to unlock potential where the economy of the country is concerned, particularly looking at the tourism sector, and acknowledging that the tourism sector is the second contributor to GDP where the economy is concerned.
Where is it residing, by the way?
The dashboard is deployed in government systems, and it can be accessed by going to Statistics Botswana website. I think the Honorable Minister Winter Molutsi did also highlight that it will also be available with a Botswana Tourism Organization website. So currently, those are the platforms that one can visit and be able to access the dashboard.
If you just tuned in, this is Wild BW podcast, and today we have Kenneth Setimela, who is one of the creators of the Tourism Statistics Dashboard. This is a tool that is meant to help support the growth of the tourism industry in Botswana. We will get to the demonstration of that as we continue the conversation, Setimela. But let me just remind you that you can also get us on the Tuesday Grill every Tuesday. We also have an appearance on Facebook, and we do have some clips on TikTok, Wild BW, so that you can be able to see what is happening with regards to issues of conservation, with regards to issues of tourism, the decisions that impact on your lives going forward in terms of the management of our natural assets. We will get to the demonstration, Setimela. I just wanted to perhaps post this. We have had situations with tech in Botswana when it comes to networks, when it comes to how we consume the digital assets. And we've always heard that the network is down, now issues with gap, which perhaps points to the fact that perhaps government, and especially since tourism is about business, perhaps government is not the best place to actually host this thing. What are you recommending in terms of how going forward we can keep this thing alive?
I think that's a bit of a pain point sometimes where country systems are concerned. But there are also issues around the Data Protection Act, recognizing who the custodians of the data are in this particular instance. I think in future we need to liberalize a lot. I think where the deployment of the dashboard is concerned, I think where it's currently sitting, I'm not too worried about that. But maybe what may be of importance is bearing in mind that the link is under statistics, who is ordinarily the bearer of all official data in the country. Maybe we will have the link also available in HATAB, all of the different associations, it's just a link. It doesn't change what the data is at the bottom, and it automatically allows a lot more people to actually consume this from multiple facets. So those are some of the suggestions that we will bring forth with principals and for decisions to be made in that regard.
But it certainly would benefit from having this sort of plethora of access points where we can be able to access the data.
I think so. I think that having it in as many websites really where we know that there's a lot of traffic of tourists, the international market goes there, it doesn't really hurt in that respect.
Before we get to the demonstration, how fresh is the data? And how do you ensure that it actually is up to date? Because you could be talking about data that is perhaps 5 years old.
Exactly. That's a very good question. So when we were looking at that first analysis stage, we put together data of 15 years. So the data starts from as far back as 15 years to the latest. And the maturity of the data is different across the different places, across the different dashboards. And to also say that what we've been able to achieve with this is where we've compressed what would typically take 1 year of compiling data around inbound tourism, the age analysis, where people are coming from, to practically compress it into this dashboard. What that means is someone is able to see and appreciate the historical performance of the sector from as far back as 15 years to what is currently happening at the moment. How have we been performing where GDP is concerned? We will see a time series that shows us how the GDP contribution of tourism in relation to the different quotas as we are reporting on it. We will also see information around the number of people that are coming into the country, which countries are they coming from. And once again, the immediate impact is how do we position the country? What is it that we need to do in terms of making sure that Botswana is well known in a digital space and to tell people what it is that we are offering. Yeah. So the data is quite extensive in that regard. And when it comes to issues of refreshing the data, first we are targeting and going to make sure that every 3 months the data is refreshed. And this is being cognizant of that some data points are manual while others are automated. There is growth and there is a lot of investment. I think there are intentions to digitize the country across so many of the government platforms. As and when there is new digital data points, we will integrate to the dashboard. There is a vision to have real-time data such that anybody, when somebody comes into the border, immediately, at least the following day, we must know the statistics of what is happening. This data is not necessarily sensitive. You go to UNWTO, it's available. You go to our neighboring countries, this data is public. Some of it is sitting where policy decisions are making and not necessarily out there to the public.
But how confident are you in terms of the integrity of the data itself? Just give us an example, for example, of perhaps a data input point that would say, okay, you can categorically say that this is data that is trusted.
My favorite one during the development, I always say this, is the one that speaks to museums.
Okay.
Favorite because they do it in a manual process.
Yeah.
But they have the discipline of recording, reporting, and ensuring that they keep the data properly. you'll see how extensive it is. So when I walk into the three chiefs, I get recorded in a book. At the end of the month, they get to report about that data. So the structures of the reporting of the data are there. We looked at all of them in terms of how it starts being captured all the way to reporting. The second part, as I did highlight, one of the critical stakeholders was Statistics Botswana. That made sure that the processes of the collection, the recording, the reporting are indeed in line with the international standards in terms of such. So we are quite confident that what you will see in UNWTO is exactly what you will also see on our on the country dashboard. So I'm very happy in that respect. It's an exercise that took a year of mapping, understanding, and subsequently doing and building the technology itself.
Can we now get into the demonstration?
Sure.
You know, we've been talking about something that we can actually begin to show people.
Sure.
All right. Okay. So you get into the dashboard. You go into okay. How, first of all, how do you go into it if you want to access it?
The first thing that someone can do is to go to the Statistics Botswana website, and immediately when you get onto that website, there is a tab that says Tourism Statistics. The moment when you go to that tab, you will immediately be directly accessing the Botswana Tourism Statistics dashboard.
Okay, I see that you have several in the menu. You have several aspects here, including top performing countries, tourism arrival, visitors by heritage site, eco-certified facilities. Perhaps let's go to the one that talks about visitor and site activity overview. That will be the I think the last one on the right.
Okay.
And just give us an idea of what we are seeing there.
Great. Typically a dashboard is a very simple, straightforward tool. It's pulling data from so many different data sources. And on the basis of that, we are looking at the visitor site and activity overview. The first one is you are able to appreciate where these visitors are coming from, specifically looking at the Chobe.
These are real visitors, not visitors to the site.
These are real visitors who have gone to those actual sites.
All right.
And you are basically appreciating what those visitors in regards to Chobe. If you look at the top part, it's first showing us where these visitors emanate from, the different regions around the countries, from Africa, Asia, to Europe, also looking at residents as well as those that are coming from the United Kingdom. And we are also looking at the different major national parks. We are looking at Chobe, we are looking at Moremi, we are looking at the Kalahari Transfrontier Park, CKGR all the way into Kutse. Equally, you will also look at
and
the
then you
visitors.
see that Chobe, for example, is the most
Chobe is the most visited. And as we did say, the first question that we must interrogate where the data is concerned is to then say, what is it that we can do to continue maintaining the numbers in Chobe? Because it means there is something of value that we are offering in Chobe. Right. But the next question is, what then do we do with the rest of the other ones that are lagging behind? Wow. Are we not exposing them enough? Do we need to come up with new products, new propositions? What do we need to unlock where those specific areas are concerned? And when we ask ourselves such questions, that is when we are making data-driven decision making to unlock value, to unlock experiences for the local tourist as well as the international tourist.
And obviously you would also need a sort of a profile of the people who actually visit these places, which then can help you to perhaps enhance their experience or even ensure that you get more feet
And that's that you've practically hit the nail on the head. We need to grow to a level where we must understand the importance of collecting data from the people that have visited, from what feedback that they are providing in terms of the experiences that they have, be it positive or negative. And on the basis of such things, we must equally ask people, please tell the world what you enjoyed about having come to Botswana. And such things are what the international tourists look at, what investors look at, and what we should internally also look at in terms of improving customer satisfaction and the experience of a typical tourist.
Let's go to the perhaps the one on top that talks about the performance according to countries. I guess it's meant to sort of show where we are in terms of the cake, the
Correct.
global cake
Correct.
of tourism.
Correct. We attract obviously a lot of people come into the country. The first one that we are looking at is having to appreciate from a regional perspective, looking at the top 10 countries around the SADC region, who's coming into our country. And the dashboard tells us that we have quite a lot of people coming from South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Zambia, as well as Lesotho being the top 4. So again, when we are looking at the data, we ask ourselves, what value can we unlock where this is concerned? The second one is also looking at a global perspective, and it tells us that we have quite a lot of people that are coming from United Kingdom, Germany, United States of America, as well as Australia and France. And the third one in that respect is speaking directly to the top 10 countries, or rather the top entry points. And the dashboard tells us that we have a lot of people that come in on road infrastructure as opposed to flying in. Because when you then go to the top one, it tells us that a lot of people come through Tlokwe border, and it then tells us that lesser people are coming in through flights. Are the flights expensive? Are they frequent? Are they enough? Questions that we must ask ourselves around travel. And this is us intentionally wanting to reposition and unlock value. If people are coming in to Tlokwe border, Ramokhebana, and all of these other borders, what impression do they have about our country from a service point of view? What is it that we must put in the borders so that people are excited to post online that I'm in Botswana? They must take pictures and post and tell that that is how we can sell the tourism sector. So the data allows us to unpack different issues from a people perspective, from a process perspective, from legislative and cultural orientations in terms of how we can unlock the sector.
Who can use that kind of data, if you think?
Practically everybody. Different people consume the data for different reasons. Operators know this data in terms of how many people are coming into the country during where is the peak period, such that I'm able to position my guest house, my lodge, so different people use the data for different reasons. Investors, they're interested in having to see the traffic that is coming into Botswana to come and unlock value and position the tourism sector differently. Policymakers, the same thing.
Before we get to the next one that I want us to talk about, and which is the ownership structure, I just want to know how much are you engaging the operators, especially because we have operators across the whole value chain.
Correct.
Including your small B&B or your Mokoro person.
Right.
How much are you engaging them to ensure that they actually provide the data that goes into it?
And that's a very good question. the sector is growing where automation is concerned. But equally, the entire value chain of the sector has responsibilities where data is concerned in terms of reporting. I think earlier when I spoke about the department having launched the T-Stat system, this data is coming from the T-Stat system.
Okay.
When I have someone coming into the guest house, I record that person. That is what we then report in terms of the tourism statistics. When we are looking at your room occupancy, when we are looking at so many different, the tourism levy, Bank of Botswana will be interested in the tourism satellite accounts and so many other facets. So the data comes directly from the operators themselves. On the basis of being given a license, I'm saying this on the erring on caution.
Correct.
When you have a license that you've been facilitated by the Department of Tourism, you have responsibility of reporting in terms of what you are doing around your business. So that reporting is what brings the data to the tourism dashboard.
But how deep can you get in terms of the data, especially when it comes to perhaps data that might be considered sensitive and yet could be critical in making much more top-level decisions
Correct,
in terms of policy making? How deep can you go, for example?
So again, you can go as deep as you want. As long as you're collecting the data, you can report on it. For example, you find that the guides, as a typical example, they have a responsibility of reporting certain things to different structures within the tourism sector. Be it if they found an animal that is dead, they will report it. It will go to Department of Wildlife. Such things are part of and puzzle of the data that is collected. But obviously we can't expose everything in as far as the dashboard is concerned. And there are also the private ones that are now only internal. So again, we looked at international dashboards in terms of what is the general pattern in respect of such and exposing the right information accordingly.
There's this aspect of ownership structure that's part of it, which I'm quite interested in it. Explain what it's there for and how helpful it is, and what does it tell us?
Okay, so the ownership. So first, every operator across the different types of nature of operations, they must be licensed by the Department of Tourism. They go to the department to apply for a license that speaks specifically to the type of business that they want to operate. So you then have your travel agencies, the mobile safaris, the lodges, the guest houses, the hotels. All of this speaks to the different nature of operations that are there. And then the second part is the dashboard speaks a little bit about who owns the licenses. Currently, it's showing that maybe a bit around 85% or thereabout is licenses that are sitting with citizens.
Okay.
We have about just shy of 300 joint ventures and about 316 non-citizens who are playing a role in the tourism sector.
So in terms of the volumes, you find that citizens have the largest number.
You find that
ownership.
We have a lot of players from citizens that are playing a role in terms of different ownerships in as far as the dashboard is concerned.
But does it also link with the kind of businesses that citizens own mainly, or is it just numbers plotted in there? But do they tell us also a different story or any story in terms of when you talk about the value chain where the citizens are and the non-citizens are?
Okay. I think the first part that we are able to appreciate where the dashboard is concerned is having to look at the nature of operations that are specific. I'm just going to So when we are looking at this dashboard for the ownership structure, you will also appreciate in detail what is happening around the types of operations that are there, from the travel agencies, from the mobile safaris, the tourist transfers, all the way to the backpackers. So this is telling us the total number of licenses that have been allocated per type of operation that is immediately there. The dashboard also gives us a sense of where we are in relation to the categories in terms of the citizen owned versus the different versus the non-citizen as well as the joint ventures.
Correct.
So you will automatically also appreciate what is happening in terms of the total number of people, for typical example, who are owning Mokoro, who are doing mobile safaris. And you will also see, I think in as far as the legislature is concerned, there are certain licenses that are reserved for citizens, such as your bed and breakfast. So you won't see any other anybody else in that respect around this one.
Around the non-citizens.
Correct.
What about the data that tells us in terms of value chain, in terms of the profits, how they are distributed with regard, or is that too sensitive for public viewing?
Not even. I think these are we are growing towards that, where we will have full understanding of the entire value chain of. I think there's been a study that is fully mapping the value chain. You'll remember the dashboard is practically focusing on the mainstream. But when you are now looking at the value chain, you are probably looking at upstream and downstream activities that are supporting the tourism sector. What is happening as far as retail, what is happening in as far as booking systems. So those are enablers or the upstream and downstream parts that are supporting this sector. So I think as we continue to go towards collecting more and more information, these are some of the information that becomes important where the dashboard is concerned.
I see also that you have a dashboard on the GDP. GDP trends. What value is that for? Because you could pretty much get GDP data anywhere else.
Okay. Foremost, it's the first part in where that is concerned is to recognize that tourism contributes. I think it's the second contributor to the economic measures. The GDP, to measure the GDP becomes important where positioning is concerned, where international investors are concerned, and where policy making is also concerned, to appreciate what is the current contribution by the sector? What do we need to unlock more value where the sector is concerned? What do we need to do to position it in a better way, locally and internationally? And we look at this from the point of view of about 4 different indicators. That is basically looking at average accommodation and food services, from a currency point of view, to look at percentage, and to look at it also in terms of how we've been performing over the different years. You will see that as and when I put my CASA on any part of the system, it will specifically tell me 2015 quarter 3, this was the contribution of tourism. I did highlight that we've gone as far and beyond. And this gives us a clearer picture of how the tourism sector has been growing where the sector is concerned.
And you can see, for example, 2020, a steep decline in terms of the contribution.
And we know what happened in 2020. The COVID pandemic was all over. There was practically nothing that was happening in as far as international inbound travel was concerned into the country. But there were a few other efforts to try to sustain this. We saw quite a lot of innovation around food delivery services. People going to the Delta, but it's the data is quite evident to say there was a sharp decline. And equally, the data is now telling us that efforts are now being made to start seeing this growing again to where it used to be prior to COVID.
I would also suppose that it would give you an idea of where we can consider to be our cash cow when it comes to the tourism contribution to the GDP in terms of the different subsectors.
Correct. There is quite detailed undertakings that Statistics Botswana usually undertakes in that regard to look at the specific contributors where tourism is concerned. That is quite detailed. The dashboard does not replace engaging with such publications to enrich self. The dashboard is like getting inside a car and you can quickly see what is happening around the sector. But you need to also be intentional to go and engage with more of what has been written in depth where the sector is concerned. So you cannot just look at the value. You must engage further to understand what it means, how we got here, and the multiple thronged facet where the data is concerned.
And as we've been talking, it's a living tool.
Correct.
What structures are in place to ensure that, for example, there's continuous conversation that feeds to this, not just waiting for data to be put in by the different stakeholders?
Correct. You'll remember at the beginning of the conversation, I outlined that we went and mapped the data collection, the data all the way to reporting. So we understand who does what, when do they do it, how often do they do it, what it requires for them to collect, record, and report. And we are making it a lot easier from the manual way that they used to report. We've put in some mechanism that they can start making sure that this data become as refreshed as possible. So there is quite a lot that has been done to ensure that this becomes a living part of the sector in its contribution.
So are you having, for example, maybe weekly discussions, daily discussions, or monthly discussions as to the status of the dashboard? Who is in charge of that?
And again, that's a very good question from an accountability perspective. The Department of Tourism leads the dashboard. It has now become their child in terms of making sure that it's fed, it's taken care of. But there are also other, the ministry and the state-owned enterprises. But the most critical player in all of this is the sector itself. The sector must be intentional to make sure that they adhere to reporting requirements and assist and ensure that the data is immediately available. Like I said, currently the intention is that every 3 months the data must be fully available. This is being cognizant of the processes that start and ensure that the data is available. Yeah.
So everybody has got to be, so to speak, inspired to be able to participate in ensuring that we have up-to-date information. What are your challenges on this thing, and what should we look into avoid?
I think there are opportunities, if I may coin them in that fashion, to grow our digital footprint. They are big vision of building a digital Botswana. I think the president, Dumaboko, is consistently talking about the vision of an automated country, the opportunities around that section. The more we automate, the more we come closer to seeing real-time data. There's opportunity to grow around utilizing the data now, where decision making is concerned. We need to unpack and appreciate what the data is telling us and utilize this for positioning the sector and ensuring that we are offering a different data-driven product where the tourism sector is concerned. There are also opportunities to continue having digital footprints. I'm tempted to think that we need to do a lot more where content is concerned. And obviously, this is where your voices and initiatives are contributing to all of this. We need to see more pictures about Botswana. We need to write more about Botswana. We need to, there is something called search engine optimization. I don't like throwing these words on this platform.
Well, the tech service would understand
yeah.
know what it means.
But we need to position the country. We need to blog. We need to do a lot more in terms of collecting data from customer experiences. We need to intentionally not only teach the operators about receiving, but also getting feedback. People always say feedback is a gift, and the best feedback that we can get is where we are collecting data and understanding the value of what we are providing. Is it good? What do we need to improve in? And what do we need to reposition the country and reimagine the country in as far as the tourism sector is concerned?
So anyone can be involved?
I mean, everybody. When we get, can you imagine somebody just sitting, having gone to the cattle post, writing about the beautiful nature that we offer, putting in the pictures, someone having seen a tourist coming in, from that point of interacting with the tourism. We have such beautiful way of receiving people from internationally. We have a different kind of humanity as Botswana. We need to share and tell people about this because now we will see the numbers of the visitors spiking on the dashboard.
Wow.
Telling us that we've understood what the data is telling us. We've improved. We've come up with new products. We've invested differently. We have restaurants in the CBD. We have cable cars. We need to look at all of this and make intentional investments that are data-driven.
On that very positive note, which you started with, actually, when we started this conversation about Botswana and the opportunities that are galore and the unexplored areas that we have in this country. Thank you so much for agreeing to come and unpack this tool that is the Botswana Tourism Statistics Dashboard, a new tool that is expected to enhance tourism in this country. Setimela, we really, really appreciate you. And in concerning your business, how do you get how do people get in touch with you? And obviously, I know that you've got so many things that you're doing, but how do
we are immediately available at leveragepoint.co.bw. The same across the social media platforms. People can call us at the office on 399-6096 or info@leveragepoint.co.bw. We are immediately available to assist where automation of business processes is concerned, building of websites, mobile applications, and automating of different processes where organizations are concerned. And obviously even to build dashboards also for corporates. Yeah, because we need to intentionally build the country in a data-driven manner. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Setimela. And on that note, remember you've been watching a Wild BW podcast, and we were discussing, as we said, the statistics, the tourism statistics dashboard. And you can get us also on Tuesday Grill every Tuesday. That's where we are. You can also get us on Facebook, the Wild BW Facebook page, and also on Twitter. We are also associated with People's Wildlife and Livelihoods. That is our partner website, where Facebook page, where we also unpack issues of tourism and conservation. And thank you so much for watching. We will meet you again next time, hopefully after the HATAB conference, which is taking place in the coming week. I'm OSHINKA TSIANG.